cold January day, life changed in so many ways at once. As the day begun, I lived one life. As the day ended, I had begun anew, reborn with a new life, a new mission, reborn with a new vision. What may come, I don't know yet, but I am here alive, living my life to the fullest, with new love in my heart and soul, a gift to have, a gift to give, a new life of love, reborn.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, Steve-O. I love that you're always the first one. Thank you so much for that. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, yes. July 22nd. This month has flown. I don't know about you, but I can't complain because yesterday and today have been the most beautiful days of this month. Cool and sunny and just magical. I don't know, Steve, where are you? You told me last time. Can't remember you know what disease. So what's the weather doing by you, my friend? And for anybody coming on the replay, I'd love to know where you're from. That just is curiosity and interesting to me. And hopefully people are having good weather. Because we've had a season of some not so good weather, and it's really made people crazy, I think, because it's been dangerous, it's been hot, it's been rainy. Yeah, you're in sunny California. That's what I thought. Near San Diego, I think you said, somewhere around there, right? If I'm not mistaken. Is my memory failing? So, yeah, I just have to say it's been absolutely amazing. Millie was on vacation. I hope you had a good time. It may be a couple of weeks now that you're back, and I've just been in and out catching up. So, Millie, we're talking weather. So, how is the weather by you? I was saying how it's absolutely beautiful here, and greedily, I wish this could be like this every day, but I'll take it where I can get it. Cloudy 70, yeah, Jersey. So you're probably experiencing what I'm experiencing. It's really just incredible. And although I've been sneezing a lot, so that tells me that the seasons are changing. And honestly, just not ready for that to happen. But that's okay. So, we'll take it day by day. Sorry, I was putting cream on my hands. The one thing that, Victor, hello. I catch you, Victor, in the mornings, but it's on the TV and I can't comment. So just wanted to let you know that I'm still giving you 2 thumbs up when I'm there, but I've been sort of in the background. But these days it's been an adventure. That's where we're going to leave it. We're going to stay on a positive note today. So that's how we're going to go. So just wanted to give people a chance to catch in and pop in, but I think we can probably dive in. And so, over the last month, I think we've talked a lot about sort of energy and vibrations, really raising our vibrations. But one of the things that, I also want to give voice to is that there's a place for the lower vibrations as well. So, the the raising our vibration is really about chasing the light, right? Having joy, having clarity of thought and purpose. Um, you know, we we want that. I don't know how. It's almost like um, that joyousness. But our lower vibrations are just as sacred, right? They're a place for us to learn, to hone our skills, to hone our energy, to heal. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. Just that whole emotional spectrum, right? Healing our lives in both the radiance and I guess you would call it reckoning. It's kind of that introspection that we have. And so, you know, I know I've talked about grief. And this is kind of prevalent to me now because my dad's celebration of life is coming up in a couple of weeks. And so it just reminds me that, there's wisdom in grief because we have to be still, you know. And I'm trying to write, and I'm struggling with it, but I'm trying to write like just a little brief flyer about his life because this is a celebration of his life. And most everyone that's in attendance, actually everyone that's in attendance, has known my father for a really long time. And they get that he was a sassy pants. He was sort of devilish and charming and funny and a wise guy. Not a wise guy in the soprano way. But, and so, I want to tell those stories and create that for him. But I've been hitting a roadblock. But that's a lower vibration, right? Being in grief is a low vibration. That doesn't make it a bad thing. It just means that it's more introspective. And so I would almost challenge each of you, where's your vibration today? And there's no wrong answer. And you don't actually have to put it in the chat if you're not comfortable. But, often when we're feeling our feels, whatever that is, happy, sad, angry, thoughtful, it defines how we move through the day, right? Oops, sorry, did not mean to hit the computer. It's one of those things that, yes, Millie, low vibes do serve their purpose and they remind us to appreciate the highs. Absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the things that I wanted to make sure didn't go unnoticed in our conversations because, I talk about raising our vibration because really what I'm thinking of collectively is that by all of us putting out love into the world, we will get it tenfold. And Victor talks about that when he has his twice daily meditations. It's if we put that out and enough of us reach out and enough of us extend our arms and hold hands. And I know we talk about singing Kumbaya, it's we can influence the energies around us. We can influence other people that might be more negative. Hello, Josh. Thanks for being here. So I think that's one of the things that, reaches into my heart. And I would say, when you're feeling whatever that is. Hello, Karen. Thank you for being here. And we're talking about vibrations. And so if anybody feels like putting into the chat what your vibration is today, whether it's high or low, happy or sad, it doesn't really matter. There's just sort of a poetry that we can write about how we're feeling. And it's, I think we often overlook the growth part of our journey, right? And that's what I want to talk about. I want to give credence and value to both I want to call it positive and negative of vibration. I don't really feel like that's it. Um, it's more the the expanse of both having high and low vibrations and how they both bring something to us, right? Um, and there's a sacredness, in my opinion, in all of how we feel. Um, you know, being in both high and a lower vibration, we're always tapping into joy and love and peace and gratitude. There's healing. There's an opportunity to uplift others. Look at Steve-O. If it was any better, I would have to be twins. You're cracking me up. I have been happier this year, sometimes subtle, but definitely a change. And I love that, Karen. I think I've had moments. It's been an interesting journey for me starting this YouTube channel, watching my father struggle with his cancer and the pain and his inability to communicate. And I think a lot of that was the medication. And then on top of that, it was really hard for at least me to grasp that some of his struggle was what the cancer was doing to him. And, losing him was and is, difficult, but it's also relief. And for a while, I felt like a bad person for saying it was a relief. But when we talk about grief, there is a relief when someone is not in pain anymore. There's relief. It doesn't mean I don't think about him every day. And quite frankly, I talk to him often. So I think that when we think of high vibration, we think optimism and we think clear intuition, right? We think abundance. And almost that there's this empowering feeling when we're raising our vibration. We're feeling really connected to the world, to the universe, to each other, to our community, to people we move in their circles. When we think more about the lower vibration, this isn't always true. We think grief, we think anger, fear, shame, disappointment, hurt feelings. But I would challenge us that those are sacred messengers. They have something to say if we're willing to listen, right? The lower vibrations reveal our unresolved emotional stuff, whether they're patterns or just moments in time. Lower vibration creates space for us to reflect and to heal. And I would almost challenge most people that, well, no, I'm going to not put this on anyone else. I would challenge that for me, I've been on a healing journey for a really long time. And one of the things, as I've been part of the YouTube community for several years now, but in this little world since October-ish, November is really when I became part of this particular community of folks. I have really healed my child, my inner child. I've talked to her a lot. I love her a lot. I walk with her a lot. I have enveloped her into me. It's no longer this separate journey that I've been on. So I think that being in a lower vibration is just another element of us connecting, right? And I think these challenging opportunities, I'm going to call them opportunities, they allow us to deepen our compassion for humans, for other people, to have humility, to have self awareness. I've hit rock bottom multiple times in the last 2 years, 3 years. Um, and um, it's been a tough journey. Oh, thank you, Karen. Yes, I love sitting on my couch, and it's one of my comfy spots. And usually I have a puppy next to me, but they're on the ottomans by the windows that are open with a beautiful breeze. So, Indigo, thank you for coming in. So lovely to see you. So, when low vibrations ground us, I don't want us to ignore the fact that they ground us. It challenges us to get honest, right? How many of us look outside of ourselves for answers? And I think that's been globally what I've witnessed. And I don't know if you guys have witnessed that either. You know, in our communities or outside of our communities, or when you're out in everyday life, I'm often hearing people say, it just happened yesterday. Um, Somebody was blaming other people for a situation in our dog park. Now, I use the Mel Robbins let them theory all the time. So I let them say things. And I didn't, sorry, I'm a little bit itchy. Um, a lot of pollen is flowing around now that I got the windows open. Um, but I'm going to take it. And I listened. And in my heart, in my mind, I was like, well, how are you contributing? Right. So there was sort of a little judgmental part of me in my mind that was like, well, you're contributing to the problem here in the park. So I stepped back because this wasn't my story to tell. This was this person's story to tell. They were looking, though, outside of themselves for resolution, where really the resolution was that person's participation in keeping the dog park clean. And that person was just as responsible for some of the chaos that was going on. So I think we do look outside of ourselves. And Indigo, yes, a lot of times I think what we do is, well, it's the government's fault that the situation's happening. It's this person's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my mother's fault, my father's fault, my brother's fault, everybody else's fault. When do we stop and look at ourselves and look in the mirror and say, well, what's my part in this? Because it can't be everybody's fault. Where is my ownership? Where's my responsibility? Where's my accountability? And so that's what I think we need, that awareness. And that's one of the things that being in a lower vibration does. It allows us to get grounded. It allows us to root in it and to pause, I think. I'd love your feedback, people, in the chat. We often want to be heard and we want to be loved. One of the things that I've been learning a lot is that we have to do that ourselves. I have to love me. I have to honor me. And that is how I can allow someone else to come in. And Josh talked this morning how some of his traumas shut him off and he didn't always have the right people in his life or didn't let people in. I don't have his trauma. I haven't been in his shoes. I have been in my shoes. And I did the same thing. I built walls, a moat, an island all around me and my heart and my feelings and my emotions to say, you know what? I'm tapping out. This is too hard. It's not worth it. I don't want to be hurt anymore. And there is wisdom in stepping away from making repeated, I don't want to call them mistakes, but decisions that haven't worked out. So they can be mistakes, but they are learning tools, right? If I keep choosing needy folks to be in my life, people to be in my life, then that's going to happen consistently. If I stop and look back and say, wait a minute, that's their stuff. I don't need to own their baggage. All of a sudden, other wonderful people start flowing in. It doesn't mean you have to cut people out all the time, and sometimes you do. And that has happened. But until me, I want to open the door, but I'm not putting the welcome mat out. You don't get to just walk in. There has to be some discernment on my part on, is this person adding value to me, to my life, to the world that I'm in? If not, I don't have to open the door and say, oh, come on in, dump your shit on my doorstep. And I think that's important. Okay, so hold on. I've seen some comments. So let me just go back. Dun, 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 dun. Karen says, it's the low collective consciousness. We are responsible for our vibration contribution. Absolutely. And Indigo said, early in my therapy, I did an exercise where my therapist asked me to think of 5 specific instances where I felt someone had wronged me, to write out the memory and then reflect on how I acted. That's a beautiful thought. I've done something similar, and I think there's value in that. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And I think that that's something that we can do on a regular basis, is just to touch base with ourselves and say, why are my feelings hurt? That person just said something to me. What is it? Is it a current feeling, or is it something from yesteryear? And I think that that's one of the things that I often, I'm like, why are my feelings so hurt? It's a non-judgmental statement. Someone said something, but it hurt me. Why? Instead of me saying, oh, that person's an idiot, blah, 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 I don't want to look out. Why in? And they could have been a jerk. That, there's validity in that. But what about a certain situation angered me, hurt me, disappointed me, whatever it is? And P.S., how many times have I done that to someone else? And that's been my grounding and my reflection. And that's where the lower vibration comes in. It's as intuitive as it is honest. Let's see. Josh and Victor are both good about helping us love ourselves. Yes, absolutely. In the situation, let me just see. Indigo says, then to write them a letter or message to them apologizing if I hurt them. It opened my eyes a lot, and I do this sometimes when I feel overwhelmed about a situation. So I would ask Indigo, do you actually mail them that letter? Because I wouldn't. I'm just curious if you mailed that, or was it just therapeutic for you to say, dear John Doe, I was a little bit of a jerk and I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And upon, introspection, I think I was probably, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just curious if you actually wrote it to them or not. Josh says, yeah, he blocked everything, every single person till recently. And, you're on a magnificent journey, a healing journey, an evolution. I'm so excited to see where this brings you and how much it just opens your heart. But I think those of us that watch you, Josh, so forgive me if I'm stepping out, love seeing the light in you. Love your joy. And it's not that you didn't have it before, but there is an absolute change in your countenance ever since you sort of came to this knowing. So I'm really happy for you, and I can't wait to see what happens. Um, uh, Millie says, definitely always a great practice to reflect on triggers. Absolutely. Yes, it was messages. So Indigo says, yes, it was messages or letters through Facebook and or mail. I reconnected with 3 old friends. Wow. Karen says, I got triggered the other day by a chat person I didn't even know. Oh my God, I was really upset, far beyond real. Yeah. So I think, Karen, what happens sometimes is someone says something and it's not really about them because they don't know you. It's something that is unresolved for you. And that's what I find when we talk about lower vibrations and when we talk about trying to grow ourselves, and really we want to live in that sacred place of love and light and healing and community and whatever you want to live in. Obviously this is what I want to live in. It's, how does that help you grow, and how does that help you get through or break through an experience so that the next time it happens you can say, wait a minute, that's just a trigger. And I already know what that trigger is. And sometimes I have to sit and think about it. And, a long time, when I see family and I get together, and I think I talked about this before, we revert back to those little children, those kids playing, where depending on your relationship, I felt excluded, I felt made fun of, I felt picked on. I didn't feel welcomed. And I immediately transferred that to being an adult, and that was not the case. But it made me feel that. And I had to step back go, all right, where's my little girl? I got to hold her. She's loved, she's accepted, she's needed. And seriously, if any adult family were to treat me that way, it would be their issue, not mine. And now I know it's their issue, not mine. Now, if I'm an idiot to them, yeah, I get it. And I work really hard on that stuff. They attacked you for a joke you made. They obviously were grumpy. So why was I so upset? I think it's because it was so unexpected, and you were taken by surprise. Yeah. So here's the thing with chats, with texting, even with emails. And I'm notorious for this in the old days when I was working in a corporate job. And, I had tons of phone calls. I was in customer service. I was in a sales related, boom, out. I didn't think about the way someone might read what I was saying. In texts, same thing. If you don't really know that person and you respond and you think you're the funniest thing since sliced bread, it comes back that you're hurt. You hurt somebody. So I do find that, Karen, in texts, in chats, especially in chats, I try very hard myself. If I don't preface it first by saying, I'm just kidding, but blah, 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 blah. It's almost like you have to have an emoji bubble that says, here's what I'm really thinking, because it does hurt. And yes, it is. Sometimes it is their issue, but it does bother you because it triggers you from somewhere else. Somewhere else, someone responded to you in a way, or continues to respond to you in a way that either they don't get you, they don't get your sense of humor, or it's just triggering that somebody responded to you from your past that makes you feel discounted. So just be observant of that. And I would, if it were me, and this happens to me all the time, Karen, by the way, I will sit with myself and go, you know what? It's okay. That's them. It's not you. And so this is hurting your feelings because I personally didn't feel loved and accepted and included and whatever the feeling was. And what did you say? Yes, because I was having such a nice time watching a volcano. Oh God. All right. Well, so it's really just kind of bring it back to you. What about somebody's response to you rubbed you the wrong way? And then just send it love and light, and send yourself love and light. Wrap yourself in your own love and light. And I'm really cautious these days when I start talking about people. So, or interacting. And oftentimes in chats, I don't chat. Depending on the vibe in that chat or the direction the chat's going, I just hover. It's great that I'm there. I can send a hello, and then I like to just sit in the back. I don't always get involved, and I think that that's um, sometimes it's self protection. Sometimes I'm just not feeling as engaged, but I enjoy the channel, and I enjoy the creator. And so, for me, that's my healing jive. And there are days where I just don't. Like I'm going to, probably at 7 o'clock tonight, I'll go see Laura B. I love listening to her. I love her entrance into her channel when she starts talking about a global message for us. And then when she starts talking about other people because they volunteered and they wanted a card read or a reading, um, it sometimes it just really hits me in a specific way, and I'm like, I can apply some of that to my own life. Shadow work. I understand shadow work. For a long time, I didn't understand what shadow meant, and I took it as a real negative. And now I just take it as emotional healing for me personally. I think the result can be wisdom, wounds to wisdom, clarity, a depth of understanding that I didn't have before. And sometimes when I need to raise my vibration, I want to honor it. I want to honor where I am at that moment. Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Do I feel happy? Do I feel sad? Am I tired? Is it physical? Is it emotional? As I'm writing this memorial for my father, is it I want it to be filled with love. So I'm going to cry. It's going to be okay. And crying's good. It's a release. And so I need to sit with it. And that's what I would say to people is sit with it. When I was actively practicing hypnotherapy, and people needed to, I work with some trauma victims, right? So often when we go through that journey, Ben Bacon Bits is here. Look at that. Oops, sorry. I don't know what glasses and bow tie equal fact, but okay. um, I I guide folks, I guide people that are going through this trauma journey, and now I'm actually guiding myself. It's as we go through it, and something is really painful or scary or shaming in my case. What I will do is acknowledge it, and almost like a crystal, almost like a gem, I will cover it, and I will send it and embrace it and love it, and then release it because it's not mine to keep. And I've talked many times on this channel before, carrying a backpack of crap. I don't want to carry a backpack of crap. I don't think I can make a t-shirt of that. But it's opening our hearts to our growth so that when we raise our vibration, when we live in our vibration, we're going to be singing a whole new tune. We're going to be more joyful and much more grounded in that element of positivity, that element of forgiveness. I really have to forgive people when they are um, not always kind. Because again, oftentimes it's not about me. And I think the little girl, that little empath that sat on the stoop staring at the moon in all of its phases, wanting to be taken back. Calgon, take me away. I wanted the moon to take me back home. I didn't belong on this earth. It wasn't my, it's not my place. It didn't make sense to me. And I think our hearts are, get shaped by the experiences. And a little girl, I think I had big experiences, and I don't want to shut it down anymore. But I also don't want to be that wounded girl whose feelings were always hurt. And that's on me, not on the other people. And I get to set my boundaries, and I get to set how I want to be treated. And that's the other thing that's important. I think finding our voices and saying, yeah, no, uh, you may feel that way, but you don't need to talk to me that way. Oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I know you didn't mean it, but don't speak to me that way. I deserve better. Once you tell someone you deserve better, with love, with affection, with consideration, all of a sudden their interaction with you is going to be different. Now, there are certain people that are like, uh-oh, here she comes, Miss Sensitive. Yep. I'm sensitive because I don't want to be spoken to in that abusive, condescending tone. Call me sensitive. But just don't talk to me that way. And it's setting the boundary that says, no, that hurts me and I'm not putting up with it. And I have a choice after that. I cannot interact with that person. And there are some folks that I don't interact with. And it's, they're like, oh, well, I don't hear from you. Yeah, you're not going to. We're not friends. We're not friends. And that's okay. All right, so hang on. Indigo says, I think it's interesting. Sometimes I notice when I heal, those who don't want to heal or stay in the rut fall away. It's so fascinating to watch. Absolutely. Look, that's part of healing. And I also would say that's okay. Letting people fall away. It's kind of, I have a friend who, when my friend stopped drinking, it was amazing how many people fell away from that person. There was nothing in common anymore. There wasn't that, drinking person. And it at first was difficult, but then my friend found a whole new audience of people to be friends with. It's a journey. Whatever changes we make, people will come and go, and they all teach us something, right? There's always a lesson. It is important to value yourself enough to stand up for yourself, Ben, 100%. And I think it's a reminder, and Ben said it, it's a reminder that it takes work. And sometimes it is okay to just say, yeah, that person X we just don't jive anymore. So you don't have to intentionally cross paths. If you ever do, you can always be kind. But that doesn't mean you need to say, hey, here's my number, call me. Don't say those things if you don't mean it. If you don't want someone to interact with you, then don't encourage it because you feel uncomfortable. It was nice to see you. Take care of yourself and move on. And if someone says, hey, give me a call, it's up to you how you want to respond. But again, you could just say, it was really nice to see you, and go. Your life is in a different path. And I think those of us that are on this healing journey, that are on this enlightened path, this knowing and knowledge path, it doesn't mean that we're better than someone else, but our expectations, what we want for ourselves and from ourselves, is to know more and to grow. Other people are just happy staying where they are, and that's okay. That's their path. That's their journey. And that sucks sometimes when it's family, but once we learn once I learn that it's okay that they're where they are and that it's their journey, I, I'm much more relaxed. I don't need everybody to be on this journey with me. It's my journey. And I want my goals to be X, Y, and Z. I want to live in higher vibration. I want to live in light, in love, in community. I want to have conversations that are challenging. I mean, I watch tons of YouTube channels. I'm like, oh my God, that is so far left, right, up, down, in, out. Um, and it challenges me. Sometimes I do research on the topic. And oftentimes things don't, if they don't resonate, it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't resonate for me. And, having been brought up a Catholic, having been brought up, um, I still very much believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I don't believe in Catholicism. That doesn't make me anti Catholic. I have tons of friends that are still Catholic. And they are devout Catholics. Doesn't make them better or worse than me. But my path is not that path. I can still believe in source. I believe in a higher being or beings. I just learned that Elohim is plural. It's not just one God. It is multiple. And I thought, how interesting is that? Yes, Ben. Sometimes we need a season to rest. Oh, Indigo, I don't know if this is to me or to Ben, but that's a beautiful statement. And I really appreciate that. I think, there's so many of us that I'm the first person to say I'm flawed. And guess what? That's okay. What makes me human is being flawed. And Ben, this is going to be very interesting. I watched, I'm sure you know him, Greg Braden, and he was talking about how we're probably the last generation of actual humans that won't have chips in us. I am fascinated by that. And I would love for us to chat about it. I think you're one of these guys that gets into this. But it's, we're in a new age here in this universe, in this time, in this space. And so I want to be as human, and being human is being flawed. And I don't have to be perfect. And I never was. I don't actually think I ever want to be perfect. I don't mind working towards being a better version of myself, being a better friend, sister. Yes, he has an amazing series on Gaia. Actually, Gaia sort of kicked him off. He's got his own channel, though, now. And there are people that do want to live a really long time, and AI or chips can help people do that. I really just want to kind of like plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. I don't really want that. I want to go out as me. It's taken me a long time to be me. I don't want to alter me in any other ways. So I'd really like to, I came in this way. I'd like to go out this way. So happy Taco Tuesday. So I'm just curious, any other thoughts about vibrations, raising your vibration, being in a lower vibration? Go ahead. We'll see you tonight, Victor. Hopefully I can stay awake, catch you on the evening. I think Gaia kicked him off. If I'm not mistaken, Karen, don't hold me to it, but he came out with some theories that were too controversial. Now, I might be wrong, so please, but he has his own Greg Braden YouTube channel, and he's been on tons of others recently promoting his book and his thoughts about, I think it was because of the AI, and how our DNA is being introduced already, and that at some point when babies are born, they may receive some sort of a vaccine injection with enhancements. And it just sort of freaks me out. And I'm kind of glad that I'm past baby making stages. Um, you think being in a lower vibration makes you feel more exhausted? Really? I definitely can see that. And I can see, for me, it makes me more contemplative. And it is exhausting, actually, Indigo, because grief is a lower vibration, right? And so it takes a lot of energy, awareness. Um, there's a word I'm looking for. It's escaping me, which is why I'm struggling at the moment. But it takes intention for me to get up, sometimes take a shower, not every day, and get up and say, you know what, you've got to do this. You have to move forward today and take that one step. Now, I'm really blessed. I think it would be difficult if I didn't have my dogs. I think that was one of the things that when my mom died, and I did have my cat, Sweet Pea, it wasn't the same. These dogs require me to get up and let them out. Sweet Pea could go to her litter box. It wasn't like it was critical. Um, Let me see. Um, Ben says, I found it interesting. There was a video I found where someone suffering from something like Parkinson's, he was showing how vibrations in speaker helped him to stop moving strange. Absolutely. And one of the things that Greg talked about as well is for the beauty of some of this technology being introduced into our DNA can help people. It's who decides what's good for people and not. And that's what I find really interesting. Oh, Witchy, I hope you catch the replay because a lot of this was inspired by you, by the way, when you were talking about vibrations a few weeks ago. I've been talking about raising vibrations, and I had sort of ignored the lower vibrations. And so that's what we're talking about. And then Indigo says, have you heard of telepathy tapes? It's a study run by verified scientists looking into the theory that nonverbal autistic communicate telepathically. Yes, actually, I have heard of that. And again, that's one of those, it's really interesting. I don't know how I feel, but I do know about it. And I think it's very possible, Karen says, hold on. They're not about now, they're about avoiding another loss. Interesting. I think it's very possible. We are learning so much about the quantum world these days. Absolutely. And people suffering from dementia was another one. Yes. That they're pulled out of that dementia by music, by vibrations, and potentially by introduction of AI-ish material. And I don't really know what a lot of that is. So it's interesting. I find all of this incredibly fascinating and scary, a little scary. We I can't remember, the Star Trek kind of theme that talked about, how we go beyond. We're going beyond that was sci-fi. And sci-fi is here. Sci-fi is real. And I think that sometimes it freaks me out. And it's why it's controversial in religious communities, because when you are adhering to traditions within a specific faith, it's contradictory. And one of the things that even Greg Braden stated was that the Catholic Church specifically doesn't want some of this information to get out about our DNA and where it's come from and how, what God it means, because it will turn everything upside down. And don't forget, please don't shoot me for this. Religion can be a business. There's money to be made in business, right? And in religious. So when we talk about, yes, where no one has gone before. Yes, thank you, Karen. You know, people, when it comes to money and donations, they don't want it to be messed with. And think of all these beautiful churches. And in my community alone, churches are shutting up left and right. Some of the most famous churches where I was living in Boston got bought out and made into condos. So, think about how certain religions, they're losing their members. And that comes from corruption. And we're not stupid people. And as we become more enlightened, as we become more aware, as we become people living in a higher vibration, we're not being led by the Pied Piper, right? There is a group of people right now that want to be led, that want to have someone else outside of themselves do the work. Once people start doing the work themselves, it's going to shake things up. So yes, go feed the kitties. And it's time for me to say farewell anyway. But I hope that this can inspire you to have conversations with people in your life, about grounding themselves and going through this journey. Sometimes it's painful. It's really painful. And it can be very introspective and thought-provoking. I love these conversations. And I love what Josh, Victor, Millie, Trista, and Lucky are doing. They have their Sunday night show. I just can never stay up that late. But I like the idea, and I'd love for us maybe at some point to have a conversation about this and throw these things back out at each other, because I think it can generate some thoughtful conversation. So on that note, as with every show, I send you with love and light and healing, friendship, community, compassion, sprinkled with laughter and joy and giggle. So until Thursday,
I'm like an ice skater dancing out for the first time on the form solid ice. No more fears, no sorrows, because I love the coming tomorrows. This life has barely begun, but now I know what I want to do. I know what I want to be, reborn. Finally feeling I am fulfilling my destiny, with a heart filled of gratefulness, happiness, joy, overflowing of kindness and love. Oh, so much love. I feel like love is the supportive pillar in my soul, and it only grows each day. I'm reborn in love.